Welcome to Virtue and Victory, a practical guide of Stoic virtues to triumph in chess and life. Adam Farr is a father, entrepreneur, aspiring Stoic, and amateur philosopher. Douglas Wong is a chess enthusiast, Stoic in training, and passionate about finding ways for us to all be at our best selves. Please welcome your hosts, Adam Farr and Douglas Wong.
As I'm driving into the shop this morning, the sun's coming up, and I was reflecting for a moment on life. And you know, I've got my routines in the morning. Typically, I get up, I grab a cup of coffee, I get my books, I do my studying, my philosophical meditations, really giving thought to the day of, hey, today you may be met with some challenges. Today you may have some frustrations. Today you may deal with some people that might not be the kindest, or they might not be the nicest. Sorry, I just noticed I'm in the shadows like a ninja. I better pop in. The sun's still coming up here in Salt Lake City, but you might be met with people that might not have the same mental training or training altogether than what you have, right?
Yeah.
And as I was watching the sun come up as I was driving in this morning to the shop, I realized it's now a habit for me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to try to get myself there mentally, because I've done it so many times. I've practiced so many times my meditations. It's just a natural part of who I am at this point. And so my mind just goes there. My mind just goes there to, hey, you're going to be met with these people. What's your plan today to address these things as they come up? As you find things that could frustrate you, as you find things that could take you off your center, what is your plan, Adam? What are you going to do? And I always remind myself that as quickly as possible, I got to get back to center. I got to get back to the place of peace. I've got to get back to the place of harmony and tranquility, because that's where I'm my best self. That's where I'm the highest character person that I can be, when I'm calm, when I'm tranquil, when I'm at peace. Because when I let other people's emotions or other people's behaviors impact me or change the way I respond to things or allow me to become reactive, I am not my best self. And if my goal is to place arete above all else, excellence in virtue, then I cannot allow myself to react negatively to those outside influences that I have no control over. As we've learned from so many of our teachings and our learnings, the one thing you always have control of is how you think about something. Marcus Aurelius taught us, at any time you have the power to rest on a beach, to paraphrase. At any moment you have the ability to climb a mountain, to be in a field, to be alone, and to be happy and to be at peace. And what he meant by that is, we have control 100% of our mind. And so when we find ourselves with anxiety, frustrated, angry, in a situation we feel like we can't control, what we can always control is what we do with our thoughts about it. And that's a powerful thing.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. I think you mentioned habits. I always think like rituals. Rituals, I think, are fabrics of culture, like broad strokes culture, but also who you are. And I think, we can call them habits as well. You are what you do repeatedly. I mean, that's the facts. One of the best books that I've ever come across, Atomic Habits. I always think about that. He calls it Atomic Habits because it's small things matter, and those are the building blocks. What you do, you mentioned, you had a habit, and it's just who you are now. We become the things that we do. If you want to be good at something, you got to do it. And you're going to start off, you're not going to be good at it. You might not understand it, but to get to the proficiency that you want, you have to do it over and over again. I think about if I followed you around all day today or for a week, would I be convinced that you're serious of becoming who you want to be? Like, are you doing the things to build who you want to be. And I think that comes down to habits and rituals, right? You have to make the decision.
Rule number one is you got to show up, right? And what I'm seeing in my observations, in my consulting firm, I get a lot of people weekly, multiple people coming to me asking me for help. Hey, I want to do this. I've got this business idea. I'd like your help. I know I'm going to do it. I'm passionate about it. I'll do whatever you tell me to do. The first thing I tell them is you need to show up here every day at this time.
Yep.
I'm going to send you a document. You're going to fill it out. I'm interested to see how quickly you get it back to me.
Yep.
80% of the people don't fill out the document. Okay. So I know that that's barrier number one. They're not going to do it. Okay. Barrier number two for the remaining 20% is you got to show up every single day. Here's where I'm going to be. Here's what time I'm going to be there. If you're serious, just know rain, shine, sleet, whatever, Adam will be here. With
Yeah.
or without the flu, Adam will be here. I show up, right? Without a doubt, I know already, out of that remaining 20%, 15 to 18% of those are going to fall out. I'm left with 2%. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you want to talk about the 1%. One of the biggest differences I find is 98% of people won't do the work and they won't show up. They say they want to. In their brain, it sounds like a good idea. But you put two tasks in front of them, and 98% of the people aren't willing to do what it takes. Consistency matters. Consistency is key. Unfortunately, so many people would rather be comfortable in their bed. And what they do, I see it every time, is they justify in their head why they decided not to show up. They have to say something to make themselves feel better. They could have shown up. They could have done the work. They could have put forth the effort. But they decided instead to justify why they didn't. Right? And they look for someone else to blame almost every single time. And that's the reality of life. And so when you want to really become the 1%, when you want to become the 2%, two things, very simply: show up and do the work.
Yeah.
That's the best advice. People always ask me. I was on a podcast recently, and they said, Adam, give us your best advice. Give us your best business advice after a 25-year career at some of the biggest companies in the world. I said, let me give you two pieces of advice, and it's going to sound extremely simple. It is not going to be fancy. I did not go to Harvard. I did not go to MIT. I do not use big fancy words. Show up and do the work.
Yeah.
I said, people cannot be consistent for longer than a few days. Most people can pretend something for a few days. A lot of people can pretend something for a few weeks. Many, many people can pretend something for a few months. Very few people can do it year after year after year. And that is the difference, right? When we think about that, it's interesting, right? Towards the end of the 1st century AD, a former slave originally from Asia Minor, many of us know him as Epictetus, but whose real name we don't actually know, set up a philosophy school in a new town on the western coast of Greece, okay? And he'd gone there not entirely through his own choice, having been banished from Rome along with all the other philosophers by the emperor at the time, Domitian, who saw such intellectuals as a potential threat to his rule. The town that they were all sent to was called Nicopolis, founded about a century earlier by Augustus. And the ex-slave Epictetus, which in Greek simply means acquired, was the one who set up this school, okay? And so I'm going to tell this story just kind of like you told your Kung Fu story earlier, right? During the years of its operation, Epictetus' school attracted many students and eminent visitors, not least the Emperor Hadrian, who was far more favorably disposed towards philosophers than some of the predecessors had been. Epictetus himself wrote nothing down, right? We've got a lot of teachings, the discourses as an example, because one of his pupils, a young man named Arrian, who would go on to become an important historian in his own right, took notes of the conversations that they were having in the school and later worked them up into the discourses of Epictetus, okay? In the discourses, Epictetus is quite clear about what his role is as a philosopher, okay? The philosopher, Epictetus said, is a doctor, okay? And the philosopher's school is a hospital for your soul. Okay? When Epictetus defined philosophy in this way, he was following a well established Greek philosophical tradition that extended back, as far as we can tell, at least to Socrates. Many, many, many years. In Plato's early dialogue, Socrates had argued that the task of the philosopher is to take care of one's soul, just as a physician takes care of one's body. Okay, by soul, we not we need not assume anything wild or immaterial or immortal or supernatural. Instead, in this context, we should understand it simply as mind, thoughts, and beliefs. So we talk about that a lot, right? That's how, well, when we talk about taking care of one's soul. The task of the philosopher is to analyze and assess the things one thinks,
Mm-hmm.
examining their coherence and cogency. On this, almost all philosophers, ancient or modern, are in agreement. Okay, it's we start here. It's all about meditation. It's all about your mind, right? And so when I ask my pupils or my potential pupils or my potential clients, do these two things: show up and do the work, I know whether or not they're going to be serious, because almost all of them say they'll do it, and very few of them actually do it. Okay? When you look at Socrates' teachings and then you look at that as a Stoic, the concern of taking care of one's soul was all the more important because the condition of our soul will ultimately determine the quality of our lives. Okay? And so the reason I'm so passionate about philosophy is because if we can address the things that are internal, if we can address the things that are here, that are holding people back, if we can make those things right, if we can control how we think about something, not what actually happens, I know, because I've seen it many, many times, we can get the outcomes that we're searching for. Okay, and things feel just a lot better, and we are at peace. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, um, um, and depending on what influencer you're listening to or where you get your news from, it's an interesting time in the world, and I think all the more necessary to take care of one's soul, one's minds, thoughts, and beliefs. Okay. Um, if you think back to Socrates, he very famously chastised his fellow Athenians for paying great attention to their bodies and to their possessions, but very little attention to their souls. I think we could probably have a very similar conversation right now. You go on social media, everybody's following everybody that has the boats, the cars, the nice bodies, the things, right? I think if Socrates was here today, he would be extremely disappointed in the state of the souls of the human race. And so, what I'm encouraging our listeners to do is to step back and take note of the state of their soul. And I love what you just said. If Socrates or Plato or Epictetus or Marcus Aurelius was to follow us around for a day, what would they say is the condition of our soul, right? And what would they say we've placed priority on that we probably should not have placed priority on, right? And that is why we have created this podcast. That is why we exist, is because we want to help people get back to really evaluating their values and their character. Just like Socrates insisted, the key to a good, happy life lies in attending to our soul. And then you attend to that, and you will have the world no matter what, right? And so we're trying to help folks reset priorities. And as part of that, as you know, we've talked about, now that we've set the foundation for what is Stoicism, what are the virtues, what are the pillars, we're so excited to start bringing on guests that have prioritized their personal philosophy and who they are as a person and who they are as a character, a person of high character. And by prioritizing that, they have achieved what many of our listeners and what many of the world would define as success and wealth and possessions, right? Because that is a thing that exists in the world, and there's comforts that we should have as human beings that we should take advantage of, but not at the cost of our soul. Right. And so I'm excited for some of these next iterations, for some of the guests we're going to be having on, for some of the work that we're doing on the podcast. My view is if folks take note of the things that we say, and if they place real value on the character of who they are, the life that many people are seeking is within reach. And that's what we want to help people attain. And that's why we do this every day.
Absolutely right. On many fronts, right? I think a lot of people think about the things that they want, and they often don't think about the steps it takes to get there, or they may perceive that as just too difficult. So let's just give up, right? Well, the steps to get there are within your control, as you mentioned. I show up. That's rule number one. If you're not there, there's zero chance, right? You show up and you start doing the work, and then you're making steps to progress. This is true in life. This is true in business. This is true in anything that you want to do. And yes, we are super excited because we're going to show people what good looks like. We're going to bring folks on who are successful. They're going to tell their story, and we're going to learn from those stories. And there's going to be common threads that we all can learn from. So definitely excited. And as we bring on guests, right, this is Virtue and Victory podcast. Wonderful idea was, let's do a victory lap. Let's do a victory lap at the end of our conversation. Let's pull back the layers, really understand someone as a person, and connect with our audience. So we encourage our audience to get there, and we're gonna start building out this school of thought, the Stoic school, and we want to build that community. And I think there's a lot of different ways. When I think about the rituals and the culture and the habits, one of the things in Atomic Habits, but this is just, I think, truism, is you can design for this in your life. You got to just set reminders for yourself, little cues to make sure you're nudging yourself throughout your day, throughout your time, and control the things you control. Like I've shared this story before, right? Like I used to have that struggle that people have sometimes with is, man, this is a warm, comfy bed when my alarm goes off at 4:30 in the morning. Oh, do I really want to get up? Like, 'cause I used to go to the gym at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock class. And then if I got up and I was a little bit late, I was like, oh, I don't have my gym clothes. I don't have this. What? So I was like a better version of myself the night before. I went to sleep in my gym clothes. All I had to do was get up. Everything was already packed in my car. It was actually more trouble for me to not go to the gym, because I've done that before where all my clothes for the day was in my car. And so if I wanted to stay home from the gym, I have to go to the car, pull the bag out of the car. And it's like, it's not worth it. I designed for my goal.
Yeah.
And so we have that on the Virtue and Victory podcast. We're going to bring folks on.
Exciting times, man. This is going to be so fun. I'm so excited for this.
Yeah, me too. Thank
Good.
you, Adam.
Thanks, Doug.